Israel's forces say they are targeting Hamas militants at Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital as medical staff warn premature babies and patients are dying inside.
An Israeli national lobbying for the release of Hamas hostages reveals how he learned the fate of his own kidnapped relatives.
The UK Supreme Court says no to the government's plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing.
Israeli forces have stormed Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. After a lengthy standoff Wednesday night, the Israeli Defence Force said it carried out a, quote, precise and targeted operation against Hamas militants, despite the hospital being full of hundreds of displaced people, patients and medical staff. Hours earlier, Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said the White House has evidence that Hamas is using Al-Shifa as a command centre.
I can confirm for you that we have information that Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad use some hospitals in the Gaza Strip, including Al-Shifa, and tunnels underneath them to conceal and to support their military operations and to hold hostages.
During the day, the Hamas-run health ministry had called for a ceasefire to evacuate 36 premature babies who are battling for their lives without functioning incubators. After days of airstrikes around the hospital, its power has been cut and images of vulnerable babies raised international concern. The situation in Gaza's other hospitals is also dire, with the United Nations saying 22 of 36 are not functional due to lack of generator fuel, damage and combat. The 14 hospitals still open have barely enough supplies to sustain critical and life-saving surgeries.
هاي المناطق اللي بيقولوا عنها آمنة يعني دير البلح الآمن وين فيش منطقة في غزة في قطاع غزة آمن لا في سوق ولا في منتزه ولا في مدرسة ولا مستشفى كله مستهدف.
Hamas continues to deny Israel's claims that it is using hospitals, in particular Al-Shifa, to conceal or support their military operations and to hold hostages. As Israel's war with the Hamas militant group rages on in the besieged Gaza Strip, human rights groups have reported an increase in violence against Palestinians and further restrictions on their movement in the occupied West Bank. According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, at least 168 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces in recent weeks, and an additional 8 by Israeli settlers. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's military says it is conducting, quote, counter-terrorism activities in several West Bank cities. In Tulkarem, on the West Bank's northwestern border, 7 Palestinians were killed in a raid on Tuesday night, after the IDF said engineering vehicles uncovered explosive devices planted on routes to attack its forces. They claimed soldiers questioned and apprehended wanted suspects, and during exchanges of fire with armed assailants, a number of them were killed. The Israeli military says it has arrested more than 1,400 people in the West Bank, excluding East Jerusalem, since the 7th of October.
Last week, Gil Dickman, whose family members were kidnapped and murdered by Hamas, received a text message from a number saying it was the Qassam Brigades, Hamas's military wing.
The text is saying, family, this is a message from El Qassam. El Qassam is one of the units of Hamas. Carmel Gat, the name of my cousin, we offered your government a deal, release all the Zionist hostages for releasing all the Palestinians prisoners. And if you want to know the situation of all your hostages, just stay in touch with us, and there's a link there.
He didn't click on the link for fear it would hack his phone. Gil's cousin Carmel Gat was kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th, along with the wife of his other cousin, Yarden Roman. His aunt Kinneret was murdered. He learned of her fate by seeing a video of her alive under capture, and then another of her body laying near the home she once loved.
I scrolled through videos on Telegram when I saw the video. She was handcuffed. They were walking her down the streets of the kibbutz. And in another video, I saw her face to the ground, murdered. Yeah. It also took a lot of time until the IDF came. We still don't know why. We don't know what happened, and we kind of lost faith in all in all the world. I still can't believe it now, today.
Well, there have been many reports this week saying the hostage negotiations are reaching a critical momentum, although this has been formally denied by the Israeli government, who say as soon as there is news, the families of those captured will be the first to know, and then the world will know. But meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue the intensification of the Israeli offensive in Gaza, whereas we know thousands of people have been killed, thousands of children have been killed, and as former US President Barack Obama has said, life is unbearable. Shona Murray, Euronews, Tel Aviv.
A Supreme Court victory for opponents of the UK government's plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing. Justices at Britain's top legal authority have ruled the policy illegal on the grounds that migrants once in Rwanda will be at risk of being sent back to the countries they had fled. The UK government argued that the African host nation was committed to eliminating such expulsions, but failed to convince the panel of judges.
The changes needed to eliminate the risk of refoulement may be delivered in the future, but they have not been shown to be in place now. The Home Secretary's appeal is therefore dismissed.
Under a deal signed in 2022, Rwanda agreed to accommodate some asylum seekers while their claims were being processed, but the first deportation flight was halted by a last-minute appeal. Rishi Sunak's government could now appeal the ruling at the European Court of Human Rights. If it were to fail there, the government would likely come under renewed internal pressure to withdraw from the European Court Treaty.
Now, in truth, Mr. Speaker, Labour will borrow anything.
Dirty money is flowing from the pockets of dictators and the business community through Cyprus. That's according to a new investigation by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists and more than 60 news organizations. The investigation involved some 3.6 million leaked confidential documents that revealed the EU member is being used for dodgy financial transactions. The list of culprits include the former owner of the English football club Chelsea, Roman Abramovich. It says that he took advantage of Cyprus's complex financial network to circumvent UEFA and English Premier League rules. Cyprus has now vowed to tighten its financial sector.
Κανείς δεν είναι υπεράνω της φήμης της χώρας μας. Πέραν των όσων έχουν γίνει όλα αυτά τα χρόνια, γιατί έγιναν σημαντικές αποφάσεις. Να σας θυμίσω ότι και μετά την ανάληψη των καθηκόντων της νέας κυβέρνησης και με αφορμή τις κυρώσεις από τους Βρετανούς και τους Αμερικανούς προχωρήσαμε και σε περαιτέρω ενίσχυση του όλου θεσμικού πλαισίου. Όλα όσα είδαν το φως της δημοσιότητας θα διερευνηθούν και μάλιστα με χρονικό ορίζοντα.
The report also names Russian President Vladimir Putin and the head of the government in Damascus, Bashar al-Assad. It claims that the bloc failed to stop Russian oligarchs from avoiding sanctions by using Cyprus's banking system, and that accounting giant PwC helped them reshuffle their wealth. Syria also used the island to bypass a U.S. ban on its oil.
The rescue operation continues for the 40 workers trapped in a tunnel under construction in northern India since Sunday. In the Uttarakhand region, colleagues of those trapped are angered by rescue delays. Authorities are calling for larger machines to be able to dig down to where the workers are. Communication has been maintained via walkie-talkies, and the trapped workers have been able to receive food and water, but some are already showing signs of saturation. Adding to this, on Wednesday, India suffered another tragedy. A bus carrying 56 people crashed into a mountainous area and fell more than 200 meters down a slope. At least 37 people died and 19 were injured.
A French court has issued an international arrest warrant for Syria's president for his alleged involvement in chemical weapons attacks in 2013. Bashar al-Assad is accused of complicity in crimes against humanity and war crimes. The French court is also targeting the Syrian leader's brother and 2 generals. The attacks near the capital Damascus killed more than 1,000 people. Videos released at the time showed dozens of corpses and unconscious children. A UN report later said there was clear evidence of sarin gas use.
The Yugoslav wars from 1991 to 2001 still haunt many older Serbians to this day. But what about young Serbs? According to the Youth Initiative for Human Rights, 1 in 4 Serbs between the age of 18 to 30 believe the West is responsible for the Yugoslav wars, while another 1 in 4 say the former leaders of Serbia, Croatia and Bosnia are responsible. But 50% of the young population admit their knowledge of these conflicts is poor.
Postoji velika doza neznanja o samim ratovima 90-ih, a da s druge strane je velika, da tako kažem, velika je pristrasnost u smislu čitanja u jednom nacionalističkom ključu događaja iz 90-ih.
When asked did a genocide happen in Srebrenica, genocidal killing of 8,000 Bosniak Muslim men and boys, 38% of young respondents said yes, while a third said they didn't know enough about it. 2/3 of respondents believe that the International Criminal Tribunal in The Hague, a UN court that dealt with war crimes committed during this time, was politically motivated.
U formalnom obrazovanju, da mladi osjećaju potrebu da pre svega na časovima istorije pričaju o tim stvarima, a u onim situacijama kada to nije moguće, odnosno najčešće nije moguće prema njihovom mišljenju, onda oni razgovaraju sa svojim roditeljima o tome i negde njihovo mišljenje je naravno pod uticajem javnog diskursa koji o ratovima i o generalnom procesu pomirenja kruži u medijima.
When it comes to the relationship between Serbia and Kosovo, a third of respondents said that Belgrade should, quote, continue working on the withdrawal of recognition of Kosovo, while only 6.7% of participants said the breakaway territory should be recognised as an independent state.